Mission Transition is a veteran-led project started by Still Serving Veterans, a nonprofit that helps transitioning military members with all things employment as they look for civilian jobs. Oh, and it doesn't cost you a dime. Find out more at ssv.org. Anyway, here's retired Navy Chief Dave Lakin.
How are you doing? I'm Dave Lakin. I'm the National Program Manager for the Veteran Career and Transition Team here at Still Serving Veterans. Today we're talking to Bill Korman, who's the CEO of Built for Life. Bill's also a Navy and Marine Corps veteran, and we're not going to go too deep into his story and let him tell his story himself. How are you doing today, Bill? Thanks for being here.
How about you?
Doing great. We've finally get past some weather here in North Alabama, and so nice to see a little bit of sun outside. So tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell me about your time in service, and you did two branches, right?
I was a Navy corpsman, so I spent most of my career with the Marines. So out of 20 years, I spent 13 with
Oh,
the
okay.
Marines. So you retired Navy chief like you, and it was an interesting career. I spent, like I said, I spent most of my career with the Marines. I absolutely loved it. Growing up, I was supposed to be a doctor, as my mom wanted me to be, and I realized that when I started in college and going to school, I didn't want to go into debt, and I joined the United States Navy to get the GI Bill and serve our country. And I quickly realized that that journey of going to school for another 14 years just wasn't cutting it. And it just so happened I go into the Navy. My last name's Corman. I was Corman, spelled a little different, and I got into obviously in the healthcare field. I quickly realized that I could actually serve and take care of people. I didn't need to go to school for 14 years. Just needed some military training and some follow-on training. I can go take care of patients and do that journey. So that's a little bit about my military career. I was stationed all over the world, had a blast, and finished up my last tour at the United States Naval Academy. And so I was truly blessed to run healthcare operations there at the clinic, and then I retired. And then from there, they hired me back into a GS position after I retired, and did that journey with them through Navy medicine and a transfer to the Defense Health Agency, and beyond. But growing up, I've always been a serial entrepreneur. My grandparents are immigrants. They actually came over during the Holocaust. They were in a concentration camp, came over, the clothes on their back, and hard work, dedication, love of God. They built multiple businesses. And my dad was an entrepreneur, a serial entrepreneur as well. But as I said, my mom thought success was being a doctor. So we that was the expectation for me to go that way. I went a different route. Through my journey, I worked and started multiple businesses. Some of them were very successful, some of them were busts. And through that journey, I realized that was my passion. That's what God was calling me to do, on a platform where I could serve people and fix problems and create new things. So that was the vision behind the journey that led me to leaving the government, starting this company on a part-time basis, then leaving the government and being able to go out. And one of the main areas we focus on is obviously our veterans, and both active duty and serving veterans both, and helping them crack this code on financial literacy. Like, how does the money game really work? So that's kind of a little bit about me. Married, credible wife, Kimberly. We have 4 kids. They're 3 out of the 4 are involved with us in our business some way. Obviously, they love serving veterans and helping the community as well. So there are 3 out of 4 involved in some small capacity or some capacity in our company. And then our youngest one is just about to graduate high school. So he's figuring out some things of what he wants to do. So that's pretty much it for me.
That's great. So I always ask everybody, what was your favorite duty station and why?
For me, it was Okinawa, Japan. I got a chance to travel the world from there. Bunch of cool places to go from there. And then I was able to work out a lot. I went there unaccompanied. Actually, I was single at the time, and then got married when I came back. And so I had a blast. I deployed a couple times from there, but we had an opportunity to work and read a lot of books and work out. I started competing in powerlifting before I left for Okinawa, so it was a great time, great place to be able to spend some time and to train pretty hard.
What year did you get out?
So I retired in October 2008.
Oh, I got out in April of 2008.
Nice.
Good. So what was that? What was that transition out like? You know, maybe the last year or so, you drop your request for retirement and you start winding down. And what was that like?
So during the when I made the decision, obviously we I had been contacted by multiple people about going to work for this contractor, that contractor, and the government jobs, and so I was working on those transitions. Which one was I going to take? But it was it's interesting after you've had that steady income for 20 years. You're like, well, what do I do? What do I do with my TSP? What do I do? Now I got to figure out what to wear to work every single day, and that was pretty interesting. And then just a little bit of the unknowns. A lot of the veterans that we work with, we help them, especially during the transition phase and beyond. Is this same thing that comes up all the time? I got to find. I was getting steady paycheck. Should I continue to do that? Should I do something different? And what do I do now? What do I do now that I'm out in the real world? And the other thing that was different is that our value system in the military is very different than most structures in corporate America today. So a lot of, like I said, for me, the biggest thing was I was used to working with civilians, but then it was one thing being in charge of all those civilians. Once I retired, took that government job, I realized that the things that you could easily have, a sailor marine do, or airman, a couple joint deployments that I was on. You couldn't do the same thing with contractors and civilians, and so hey, work all night and then come in on Saturdays and Sundays and get this project done no matter what. So that was for me, it was an interesting transition over the time when I right after I got out, or right after I retired.
So it sounds like that might have been a painful lesson or two in figuring that out.
Oh yeah, yeah. We went through different things where HR would come visit me and it would say, "Hey, I know that you're new to this, but you can't you can't assign these tasks and have them come in on a weekend, even if you're buying them, lunch and dinner and all that stuff. You just can't do that unless you get it pre-approved." And so I was like, "All right." Well, I mean, I did have civilians work for me while I was on active duty, but it was it was a different world going from that to being, a senior supervisor in charge of a lot of people. So.
Yeah, that was my same experience. Of course, Navy chief from Boston, and I retired from NAVAIR headquarters, and immediately got picked up by the contract company that I was managing in uniform. And I left the Navy in my uniforms on Friday and started with this new company on Monday, and spent the next 6 months commuting back and forth from Maryland to North Alabama. And Navy chief from Boston dropped into office environment in North Alabama, did make some waves for sure. Uh, in TAP class, they forgot to tell me to dial it back a little bit because the civilians is different.
Yeah, yeah, different world, and so yeah, some good lessons I learned, painful lessons, some of them, and then so I took a bunch of courses on HR, read a bunch of books, got a couple mentors and coaches to help me through the process of going from so I was a supervisor as a chief. I was actually a deputy director, but then going to that point and taking over the whole group as a civilian supervisor. Lot of lessons will be learned over time. But the cool thing is, I had a great staff, and they were willing to be flexible with me in that learning curve.
Yeah, definitely. It's always good to be able to surround yourself with good people. So an entrepreneurial spirit, it can be. I've owned my own business now still, even though I work at Still Serving Veterans, and it can be an adventure in working for yourself and having to be 100% self-supporting and responsible for a paycheck. In the civilian environment, a lot of folks go to work every day and they just do whatever they got to do to get through the pay period and get their paycheck at the end of that period. And it's we think it's performance based work environment, but really, as long as you don't get anybody mad at you, or you're mostly doing what's been asked of you. You're pretty safe from paycheck to paycheck. As an entrepreneur, you got to grind every day, and owners of a small business who have employees are often the lowest paid person in the organization when it's starting up. Um, and
Absolutely.
it doesn't matter what that organization is. You could be a lawyer, you could be a law firm, you could be, an electrician or HVAC company owner. But your employees got to be paid, and you don't. So, what was that like starting your own business? Deciding that you're going to take 100% responsibility for your own um, income, payroll. And what's that like starting a business straight out of the service or shortly after getting out of the service?
So yeah, so it's a definitely a leap of faith to be an entrepreneur, and it's I've heard many of my mentors say that if you have a problem anywhere in the world, just give it to entrepreneur, they'll solve it, right? Because entrepreneurs are build this thick skin over time. It doesn't happen naturally. I think there was a survey. It was in I think it was in Fast Company a couple years ago. Survey how many people would actually have you ever thought about being an entrepreneur? 91% of people said yes, right? Then the next question was, are you currently or have you been a business owner? And the next question, a lot of people answered no. The next question was why not? And it basically came down to fear. We've been as a culture, it's go to school, get a good education, get a good job. Job with benefits, right? Military, government, those kind of things. Companies that give you benefits. So when you're thinking about as you said, if you don't cause any waves and if you just kind of perform, right, they usually don't get rid of you unless the economy is really bad. And if you should work for the military, federal government, pretty solid, career. But one of the things as an entrepreneur is that you get to eat what you kill, right? It's one of my mentors told me. So you have to
Yep.
be, and when you start out, as you said, like some of the traditional small business owners, you're everything, right? So you got to go find the clients, you got to go do the work, you got to collect it, the money, you got to then pay all the bills and hire and fire and all that kind of stuff. So it can be very daunting to think about that. So a lot of times I consult with people that are also looking to go into become an entrepreneur, own their own business, and I just tell them, I say, look, what is your why? You got to figure out your why first. Like, are you okay with as you transition out after being told what to do for 20, 30 years, whatever it is, are you okay with that repeating for the rest of your working life? Right? Or does that frustrate you sometimes? Do you feel that you have a better way, and do you have a passion for serving people and creating stuff? If you do, then it's probably time to look at entrepreneurship, right? If you would like to, figure out how to outpace traditional middle class income, well, entrepreneurs, I mean, you have the ability to make 10, 5, 50, 100,000x of what you can do as an employee. So a lot of times I have them do a T-square, like, pros and cons of being an entrepreneur, pros and cons of going, transition out and going to get a job. Right. So what are the things? Well, obviously you get benefits, a steady paycheck, those type of things. But your income's limited. Somebody's gonna tell you what to do, how much vacation you have, all that kind of stuff. So usually once I have them do that, and I have them do that with their family too. So if they have a family, I'm like, look, because the other thing with entrepreneurs is that it's not a 9 to 5 job. So it takes hours of a lot of work initially up front. But if you do it right and you build it right and you stay focused, you get to reap those rewards. And depending on what industry you're in, you can actually create passive residual income, so you never have to work again. Right, what you've built, either you as an exit strategy, you sell it off and make a nice chunk of money, or you create systems that continue to pay you even after because you've already built the work. So it can be daunting, for that to make that leap of faith. But it all starts with your what is your why? Right, Simon Sinek's a great book. Is one of his first book was to start with the why. And in that book, it really helps you understand that that's the top companies, the people who have created the greatest things in the history of the world. They knew their why, right? And so a lot of times when we're in the military, we're just in the grind every single day, right? We don't really take time to think about our why, because there's the next getting ready for next deployment, coming off deployment, catching up time with family. Then when you're back in garrison, you got things to do, and then when you get down to that last year or last 6 months, you're thinking, what I love, like what am I passionate about, what's the next. I would say we're closing that book where you get, if you're going to become an employee, you're probably just writing a new chapter, but if you're going to become an entrepreneur, you're literally sealing that book off, and you not to go away, you're going to go back to those references, but you're really literally writing a new book. You're heading in a brand new direction. So for me, I had owned a couple other companies before while I was on active duty. I had a gym at one point. I had a consulting company. We built an international business in 4 countries, and I did. Coaching. I used to coach and mentor people, and so when I got involved in starting this financial services company, what I decided to do this time is I wanted to prove to people that there are certain industries that you can keep your job and build something along the side. So that's another thing. A lot of times when you start as an entrepreneur, you got to literally they call selling the farm, right? You have to go all in, everything. You have to quit your job. But there's many platforms out there where you can test things out. Kiyosaki says, take a job for what you can learn, not what you can earn. Right. So if you're thinking about, oh, I like to own an ice cream shop, well, go take a job in an ice cream shop and ask a ton of questions, learn everything you can, and decide, is that something I want to do? So, that's been my experience.
Yeah. So when I left the Navy, I was program manager at this government contract company, and I did that for 6 years. But I wasn't really building anything for myself. I was going to work every day for somebody else, making a paycheck, making tons and tons of money for somebody else, but not really accumulating anything for myself. And then somebody came in and bought the company, put all the program managers on a 30-hour work week, took away all our bonus plans, and so I made a huge step backwards all of a sudden. And so that sealed it for me. They kept us on 30 hours for 9 months, and with the same workload. So I got burned out, and said, "There's got to be something better. Surely I can be a better boss for myself than this company is being for me." And it's we are often the worst boss we've ever had. We demand longer hours for less pay, and now there is no job description. Your job description is do everything, and
Yes,
so worst boss you ever had. So you saying buy the farm. That's what I did. I cashed in uh, every bit of retirement money that I had, and I had 2 years of my full income at this contracting company. I had 2 full years available to me in the bank to start this franchise, and so I bought the franchise. And the great thing about buying into a franchise is it comes with a plan, a pre-proven. If you can make this recipe work, then if you do it the way we tell you to do it, and somebody's going to be there with you to coach you through it, and stay on your shoulder and make sure that you're adhering to the plan, then you'll make money. And so that
absolutely.
was a great entry into owning my own business. And then I did that for 5 years, and the license ran out. And when it came decision time to renew the license, there were things that I wanted to do. For me, it was a coaching business as well. So I went out on my own name and created my own executive coaching, small business coaching firm. And I've still got that today. But um, but it can be stressful at times. When there's no you're going to get the same paycheck every 2 weeks or a month with a 3% pay raise every year, and if for good performance, we'll give you a 6% pay raise this year, and if you do really well, we'll give you a 20% bonus at the end of the year. It doesn't work like that. You got to depend on everything that and you don't know enough about marketing and sales and insurance and licenses and networking and all that. So entrepreneurship can be very, very rewarding and lucrative. And I'm going to give you a minute to talk about how that's been the case for you. But the statistics not too many years ago were um, 80% of all businesses fail in the first 5 years, and 80% of the remaining businesses fail in the next 5 years, which leaves 4% of all businesses remaining after 10 years. And I know those aren't the numbers today. The numbers are probably worse than that today, to be honest. But overwhelmingly, the businesses that that made it through that 10-year period started with a business plan, and that's what's common among franchises. Is in the sales of the franchise, you're required to have a franchise disclosure document that you review that tells you, typically, on average, this is how people do across our brand when they buy this, and if you just adhere to this plan, do what we tell you, and keep an open mind, then you'll do this too. But not everybody buys into a franchise. A lot of them just start their own business. But again, that business plan, which is a living, dynamic document that gets updated regularly and stays at arm's length on your desk, that defines, how quickly do you expect to ramp up, and where's your money going to come from? What's your marketing plan? What's your networking plan? What's your referral plan? All kinds of things in that document. So enough about me talking. What's been your experience in all of that in starting a business? First of all, tell us, what is your business? What does it do? Why does it exist? Why did you get into that or start that versus something else?
Yeah, so for me, what happened was in the early '90s, we were living paycheck to paycheck. Early 2000s, things started to get a little better, and we started to, everywhere that we transitioned to, we would buy a house and then turn that house into a rental property. We built a massive real estate portfolio all the way up until '08, '09, when everything started crumbling. And so I kept all the plates spinning, still on active duty, and transitioning out. I'm working for the government, and I'm going through a bankruptcy. So business bankruptcy and personal, both. And so I found myself, that poor, broke, busted. In 2010, when I went to bankruptcy court in Baltimore, Maryland, I walked out of there. It was pouring down rain that day. I go to the parking garage where my vehicle was parked, and I had just had a meltdown and just bawled my eyes out, having a conversation with God for 3 hours, and said, I don't know what's going on. I thought I was doing everything right. And here I am. I'm the lowest point of father, husband, in my life, as a human being. And I said, I don't know what, but I know you're trying to teach me something, or you're trying to move me somewhere. And I kept saying, what is it? And the day before, a buddy of mine had called me. He said, hey, I want to pray for you. I know you're going to bankruptcy court tomorrow. He said, but I found an article you might find interesting. He said, how everybody's getting killed with this recession? He said, Warren Buffett only lost 3% of his wealth. I said, what? I didn't think anything of it. But then that day, I'm driving home, and I'm like, what does Warren Buffett know about money that the rest of us don't? So I went to the bookstore, Barnes and Noble, bought a bunch of books on, money, finance, the Warren Buffett way, started studying, started to build things back up, got me very curious. And then as I started to talk to people, I talked to my financial advisor. I had a First Command financial advisor, one of my good buddies, really good friends still today. And I said, what do you know about this stuff? Like these things, Warren Buffett? He goes, well, we don't talk about that stuff here. And I asked another buddy of mine who had gotten out retired from the military, went to become a financial advisor. And he said, I've never heard of these kind of things before. I mean, must just be for billionaires. And I did some more research and more. And what happened was, it got me curious that most of us in middle class America have no clue how real wealth is built. Tony Robbins just came out with a new book. It was absolutely incredible. In there, he's interviewed Ray Dalio and Warren Buffett and all these great minds, and Carl Icahn and all these. But in there, he breaks it down simple for us, like middle class America, to understand it, and how you can actually build wealth instead of what most of middle class America doing is living paycheck to paycheck. So I got very curious. I was going to launch my own company, and then so this is what happened to me. We were about to, so you mentioned franchises. I called my mentor and I said, hey, one of the things that I believe God's put on my heart is he's called me to start a nonprofit that focuses on ending human trafficking. He said, well, that's great. And so we talked about it, and he says, my mentor at the time had started 3 nonprofits. He said, I recommend you self-fund it initially. I said, well, I don't have any money left. I'm just rebuilding everything. and he said buy some franchises. So I said okay. So I researched. So in 2018, we were literally about 17 days away from signing a loan to borrow 1.5 million to borrow to start 2 franchises: Zip Dry Cleaners here in Maryland and Sport Clips. And so I liked them because they were manager-run models, through the process, and I wanted to create passive residual income from those, and then go on to focus on our nonprofit. And so I'm looking into all this stuff, and I felt uneasy about it. I fasted and I was praying on a Thursday. Friday morning, a guy reached out to me on LinkedIn. And he says, hey, I see you're an entrepreneur. I see you're a veteran. And I see you follow my CEO. So I said, all right, who's your CEO? And he mentioned a guy named Patrick Bet-David. And I had been following this guy for 4 years, another veteran, for 4 years on YouTube. And I had no idea, like it took the time to research what Patrick actually did. I just knew he was successful. He was a veteran, and he provided incredible content that I can use and then share with other people. So I said, all right, tell me more about your company. So I found, I was asking God that the divine intervention, he brought me to be able to connect with Patrick and the company. And so when I launched this business, Built for Life Financial, I was able to partner with them. So it's just kind of like a franchise model. So I didn't have to figure it all out on my own. I was able to get the coaching, mentorship, the training, the licensing support, all that stuff, to be able to go out and learn this industry while I was still at my job, while I was still in my government job. So that was how we got started here. And my passion was, I remember my grandparents getting screwed over by their financial advisor. I mean, they worked their tails off for years, not once, not twice, but 3 times. They got because the financial advisor should have been advising them to go in a different direction, but it's a commission-based industry, and so he saw this opportunity to not do what he should do, and I remembered how we got clobbered. I mean, I was with First Command for a long time, and we got clobbered in 08, 09, and what everybody said was, oh, everybody got clobbered. Well, no, they didn't. No, they didn't. There's people called the wealthy who, may have took some small hits, but generally overall, they've been taught to do things differently. And what I learned, because I was the Dave Ramsey guy, I used to teach Dave Ramsey's financial piece. I have had thousands of students. I took all my staff at Naval Academy through it. I was a big proponent of that philosophy. But what I realized when I started studying real wealth, that people like Dave Ramsey and Susie Orman, what they're teaching middle class America, and again, I still love the guy today. I mean, I'm a Christian. He's a Christian-based program, but what I found out is that those philosophies that we've been promulgated to middle class America keeps middle class America where we are. I mean, this month is April's financial literacy awareness month. It's started. This is the 21st year. So there's a massive problem in middle class America. We have a crisis. We have a retirement crisis going on right now, and we also have. There was an article, I believe it was in. It was on a Bloomberg. It says we have, the first time in history of our country, we have an exorbitant amount of people making $250,000 a year or more that are living paycheck to paycheck. How do you make $250,000, $250,000 a year and you're living paycheck to paycheck? Well, it's easy. We don't teach financial literacy. We don't teach it in schools. We don't require it in schools. Maybe some school districts have come up with cool, innovative things to do, like this add-on class, but we don't make it required. We make you take STEM, all the STEM stuff, but we don't require you to understand the things that the schools are training you to do is mostly become somebody else's employee. Well, if you're going to do that, that's great. But why are we graduating our students from schools, teaching them all this other stuff? But the fundamental thing that they're going to work 40 years of their life for is money, right? Understanding the money game. So that was it for me. I saw an opportunity to break the barriers, to right some wrongs, to provide the Warren Buffett type education to middle class America. Obviously, especially my passion is our veterans. But to teach for free, teach how wealth is really built in America, how Oprah does it, how Bill Gates, Mark Cuban, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, Steve Harvey that lived in his car for 3 years. Like, what do they do? What are the things they do to build wealth that they've been taught that we, middle-class American, can do the same exact thing just at our level? Instead of just saying, oh, let's work hard and make extra payments on your mortgage and pay your mortgage off, caught up all your credit cards. Okay, that's great. What's next? I go risk all my money in my 401k and IRAs and mutual funds. Okay, you should have some money in variable. So we teach three fundamental principles. You need this is Warren Buffett. This is from him. You need the three ways money grows. Right? He teaches three ways money grows. You need fixed, you need variable, you need indexed. You need those three components. If you do it right and you're working with somebody who actually understands that, you'll actually build wealth, go into retirement, maintain wealth, and there'll be wealth left over to transition over to, to pass on your legacy. So you mentioned something earlier about in the journey of entrepreneurship, well, in building something for somebody else, right? I was in charge of a lot of large projects. When I was a consultant, I helped a lot of companies make a lot of money, but it wasn't building my foundational wealth, right? I was in the position I was in. So I heard a pastor many years ago when he had a video where his son asked him to buy a Derek Jeter jersey, and he's like, "We don't buy other people's last names jersey." And his son was curious. He said, "What do you mean, Dad?" And he says, "Well, think about it. The Jeter legacy is already set, right? We're going to focus on building our legacy. So the jersey on the name on the jersey of our jersey is our last name. That's what we're focused on building. And so that's what we're doing here. So we're helping families understand, breaking down these barriers, this myths, this stuff that's been, the guy who created the mutual fund, right, said that it was created because middle class America was too stupid to understand investing. Right. Well, today with social media and YouTube and all this kind of stuff, that obviously is not an issue. You have an unfettered amount of knowledge you can get. Right. Take full courses on YouTube, books and all this kind of stuff. So it's not the small group of people hold the holy grail of knowledge. So that all we've done is just taken strategies that have worked for the wealthy, and we've broken it down so all of us in middle class America, like I said, especially our veterans, we can understand it. So I mean, we sacrificed a lot. Some gave all, some gave some, but we all gave something in that journey, right? And many of our brothers and sisters are not here today because they put it all on the line to protect this country, our values, our principles, democracy, and how dare us go making that ultimate sacrifice, and nobody's teaching us about money and finance and wealth. Right. I mean, we have Financial Literacy Month in the military. We have command financial specialists. All they do is give you a little budget worksheet. They're not trained on how to actually help you build wealth. What should I be doing with my TSP? Should I be overfunded? Not? Where should I put it? And then you go to other companies out there that are driven to drive the mindset behind you for profit. So that they're giving you recommendation. I say, oh, this is what everybody does. You put some money here, put some money there. And we've seen, nobody has to even believe me. That's what I tell our clients all the time. We're going to educate you, but I don't want you to believe me. I want you to go on a process of self-discovery. I'm going to give you some things to look at, because man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still. So we want to educate you. We want to help you understand the money game, the way the wealthy do. And then you get to do it at your level. But we don't have to convince you. We don't have to sell you anything. In that process. So that's what has been, my passion, is just getting this message out there to more and more, obviously, of our veterans, but all middle class America.
So as we're wrapping this up, who's your target market? Who's the best people to call you for more information on getting the right path in their financial future?
So we work with all of our active duty. It doesn't cost anything to work with. Zero for all of our active duty, government, military, our veterans. Obviously, my passion is our active duty and our veterans. But so anybody that's interested, wants to learn more about money, finance, and wealth, our services are free. So contact us. We'll walk you through. We find that 25 and older and above is the ones that reach out to us the most. So starting at 25 and any age beyond that, people that are curious about understanding money and wealth, people that want to learn more about taxes. We'll teach you some cool strategies with that. But those are the people that we're looking at to help. We do free seminars. We teach the YMCA's, homeschool groups, private school groups. We teach this financial literacy platform to all those different groups. So if you have a nonprofit or anything out there, if you know how we can reach more veterans groups, we would love to be able to, just share our services with them. Again, it's free, and be able to break this barrier, right? That middle class, bring back hope to middle class America today. Tony Robbins was on an interview with Tucker Carlson, and he was saying about how so many people today have a lack of hope. Coming out of the pandemic, people are worried, about this recession we're in, and the future, and what do they do? Tony Robbins says he sees angry people on airplanes all the time. It's like, why are so many people stressed out? And a lot of it goes back to the stress of grinding every day to make money. And there's two different schools of thought out there. There's what has been taught to us in middle class America for mostly the last 50 years, and what the wealthy do. So if you connect with us, we'll be happy to share what we know with you. Again, it's all free resources and those things that we do for you, and we'd love to be able to help you.
Well, it sounds great. It's definitely something that folks need today, is a little bit better understanding of their finances and how to truly build wealth. Particularly entrepreneurs or people who are considering an entrepreneurial life, absolutely need to have a coach. Don't try and go and do it alone. Live and learn off of the lessons that other people have had to live through the pain of creating their own wheels.
Absolutely.
Not too many lessons in business out there that need to be relearned. They just need to be learned by you, and it's better it's better to go out there and use the wheels and solutions that other people have created along the way.
Absolutely.
So,
And Dave, by the way, 35% of all my agents are veterans. Actually, I'm sorry, 41% as the last week of all of my agents. I have roughly about 600 licensed agents across the United States and Puerto Rico, and 41% of those are veterans. You can actually work with us even if you're still on active duty. So there's some ways. So if you're looking to learn entrepreneurship, learn this industry, learn the money game, we would love to sit down with you if you'd like to learn more about that interview and see if you're a good fit as well.
all right. Well, thanks for being here today, Bill. It's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you for all your insight and experience in the entrepreneurial industry, and we'll definitely have your information up on the description for folks to learn more about you and to get in touch with you. And other than that, I appreciate you being here today, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate the opportunity.
Thanks for tuning
Take
in.
care.
Mission Transition, a podcast for veterans. If you have any questions, concerns, comments, or maybe even want to be on the podcast, shoot us an email at social@ss